Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the MMA Plug on Mile High Sports. I'm your host, Jordan Kurtz. You can give me a follow along online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. Want to give a huge shout out to the whole Mile High Sports crew here. There is no shortage of headlines going on right now and great content that they are producing to cover all of the latest and greatest from the core four sports. You have football season in full tilt and swing. You have winter sports getting lifted off of the ground, the SCO show with the Nilo, to any coverage that you could possibly imagine, from the podcast, the website, the magazines, and some dope merch drops whenever they are available. If you have the chance, please make sure that you smash that like, share, and subscribe button across all platforms here on the Mile High Sports Network. We've got plenty of things to cover here for you this week. We're going to be talking LFA from Vail over the weekend. We're going to be talking this week's UFC card. We're going to be recapping some of the major talking points from last week's UFC pay-per-view. Let us know online what you guys want to hear more of, and thank you so much for following us along here. Reach out to me, Jordan Kurtz, at Comments from the Peanut Gallery, or to the Mile High Sports crew. You could also reach out to the MMA Plug directly at the MMA Plug 303 on Instagram. But without further ado, let's dive in. Last week's LFA 195 card. Now, I was boots on the ground, on the scene at the Dobson Arena in Vail, Colorado, covering the show. There was a showcase fight in the bantamweight division in that main event between Justin Wetzel and Usmanov. We had Justin Wetzel on the program last week. Justin was able to get that big win in that main event slot. It was a dominant victory, but he did not get that finish that he was seeking. So I definitely think that there might be another fight in his future prior to getting that call, although I do think that he right now could go in and win fights against guys on the UFC roster right now, today. That all being said, I think that this was another tremendous affair for the LFA. We in Colorado are so blessed to have such a rich fight culture and fight scene. And to have the LFA be back here after already being here earlier this year, just a couple of months ago, it's truly a blessing. You get all of the feel of a big show and a major organization with a show like the LFA. And I've said it many a times on this program, and I will continue to hammer this point home, that I believe that the LFA is the best ran organization outside of the UFC. And I'm talking all the other shows out there. I will put the LFA's operations and their staff up there with anybody. That's how highly I think of them in this process. In the co-main event, you had a matchup of a couple of battle-tested veterans who have both competed for major organizations. You had Dante Sciro taking on AJ Fletcher. This was a gritty matchup for as long as it lasted. You had AJ Fletcher escape an initial rear naked choke attempt, and then Dante Sciro, being a wizard on the ground, really slick with his submission game, was able to find that position once again and ultimately secure the rear naked choke victory. This is a guy who, again, he's fought for a major organization, fought for Bellator. This is now back-to-back victories for him in the LFA octagon. Trains with a lot of high-level guys. This kid is definitely a very quality fighter, and hopefully he gets an opportunity to continue on with his career and to elevate back to a major show platform. In the feature fight of the evening, you had a fight between the heavy-handed Kevin Fernandez, who took on the Silver City Strangler in Josiah Reyes. Josiah Reyes, coming into this fight, his only loss on his career to date was Luis Grim Grillet. So, by all accounts, this man has a strong resume. But Kevin Fernandez, man, this kid is a dog. This kid just goes in there and scraps until the last breath. And he had a couple of injuries in this fight and just continued to persevere through them in the process. If you see the post-fight interview that we did, check out the MMA Plug 303 on Instagram or Comments from the Peanut Gallery. You can check out either one of those pages to see the post-fight interview with Kevin Fernandez. But the young man definitely had a couple of injuries early on in the fight, did some damage to, I believe it was a thumb, and just a couple of other little things, but continued just to swing through it. And hey, congratulations to Kevin Fernandez. I mean, the young man is sitting at 8-1 in the flyweight division. You can expect to see some big things coming his way for sure. Following that, you had a matchup that was originally slated to be in the flyweight division, ended up being a catchweight at 128 pounds. Just going to go ahead and address the weight situation right away, since some of the viewing public out there didn't feel like I addressed it enough in the post-fight interview with Micah. Micah Super Jew Haas picks up a victory against Eric Calvert. Again, this was a 128-pound catchweight fight that Micah officially weighed in at 131 pounds. Obviously, the weight's got to get figured out. However, on the flip side of that coin, if you're the opposition and you still decided to take the fight despite the weight miss and discrepancy, once you accepted to take the fight, you can no longer use the fight as an excuse. Yes, I get it. It sucks, especially in percentage to body mass, overall body mass being flyweights. That's a significant miss. That's a big amount. It does play a factor, but you still chose to take the fight. Yes, I understand the model of the game is that if you don't continue forward, you're not going to get paid, or you're not going to get paid both checks. I understand, and that's the poor part of how the overall dynamic of the business is, but that's the status quo. We can't change that. You still decided to take the fight, and I understand all of the variables. You came all the way from Arkansas. You made the way. You had to hydrate up so that you were within enough of a pound deviation to be able to make the fight. I understand all of that, and I applaud you for doing so. But I just don't believe that that can then be made to be an excuse afterwards as far as the weight goes. That all being said, Eric Calvert, that kid is a talented young prospect. He's in his early 20s. He's sitting there at 4-1 with a slick submission game. That kid's going to continue to elevate. He's going to continue to elevate himself and grow in the process, and I expect to see him back on the scene and doing big things going forward. But you have to give your credit to the Super Jew, Micah Haas. He keeps his undefeated record intact. He is now sitting at 6-0. Know that there's a little bit of adversity with the scale situation in a couple of fights, so hopefully that all gets locked in and figured out. But again, congratulations to Micah for showing up and showing out. You had a matchup between Marina Montero and Kendra McIntyre in the ladies strawweight division. This was a matchup where Kendra came out hot. She had Marina hurt, and she pounced for a finish, and then ultimately Marina was able to withstand the storm and was able to catch her in the process. That's the fight game. It happens. I believe just the nature of who Kendra is and how much experience she has as a fighter, along with the support system that she has around her, she will certainly be back into the thick of things. You had a ladies matchup in the bantamweight division between Melissa Scare Croden taking on Ashley Dean. Melissa Croden was cornered by LFA royalty and UFC veteran Haley Cowan. She got the KO TKO in the second round. This is a fight where I can see Melissa Croden potentially getting a call here shortly. The women's bantamweight division is not a very deep division as far as the roster goes, so her sitting there at 6-2, I wouldn't be surprised if an opportunity comes knocking sometime here in the near future. Following that, we had a rear naked choke submission by the Bosnian silverback Haris Talunzik. He is back in the winner's circle after being away from the octagon for essentially a year from that last fight in Vail at the Dobson Arena, where he was winning all but the last few seconds of that fight before he got caught. In this fight, Harris, or I should say, in this post-fight interview with Harris, dare I say this was the most humble version of the Bosnian silverback that we have seen so far, especially given that he's normally a highly boisterous personality that is exuberant with confidence and is speaking very loudly in the process, saying it with his chest, if you will. After the fight, though, Harris was very introspective when we were speaking, and he said, you know what? I think that there are definitely some things that I still need to work on before I'm truly ready to go and make a run at the next level. And I think that the honesty and the humility that he displayed in that moment, if he's able to truly take that in and take that version of himself back to the drawing board, he will elevate so much further as a fighter than he would have ever imagined otherwise. And sometimes maybe it's a loss that someone takes that, maybe that's what it takes for you to essentially become vulnerable enough to realize where the blinders are or where the opportunities for growth are. And I think that that's something that Harris has done in the process. And again, if he can stick to that and takes that to the training room, he trains with a lot of high caliber people. That will allow him to see some of that success that he visualizes himself having. The fight before that, though, this was a fight that I told you guys on the program last week and spoke to it with a few people on site at the Dobson Arena. This was a fight that I believed could very easily be the fight of the night. It's a flyweight matchup that happened between Isaiah Torres and Keenan Davis. One thing about Keenan Davis, I can say this from the vantage point from watching this young man from the early stages of his amateur career all the way to current date. And he just continues to get better. He continues to grow and get better. And this fight didn't go his way. Isaiah Torres was able to win by that triangle submission, which also, was en route to potentially having some, the damage to TKO. But Isaiah is a scrappy kid. He is definition Eastside Pueblo. That kid comes to bang. He comes to scrap. He doesn't care who you are, what your name is, what camp you come from, who you train with, any of that. He doesn't care about any of that. He shows up, he brings his hard hat and his lunch pail, and he's ready to get after it and scrap down each and every time. And that's why you have to give just the ultimate nod of respect to Isaiah Torres. Isaiah now moves his record to 6-2-1 in the process as a professional. Rounding out the card, you had Alex Fisher out of high altitude, moving up to 2-0 as he scored the first round KO TKO against Jared Ferrara. You had a armbar submission victory by Leilani Hodgins Pike. The Tsunami got the armbar in the second round, and she was one who all of the LFA crew spoke very highly of. So if you guys want to have someone who you always want to ask, who's next or who's the fighter that you see might be able to go out there and make a splash here in the next couple of years, according to all of the LFA personnel, Leilani Tsunami, that's the one who you need to go check out and follow right now. And rounding off the card, jerking the curtain, you had Rory Light open it up with a first round KO TKO over Austin Behrman. So congratulations to all the fighters, camps, and their support systems who got their hand raised in victory. And also nothing but respect and a tip of the cap to all of the rest of the folks out there who were on the other side of those things, and to the fans and supporters who came out and made this such a great event. Again, the LFA is an operation that is second to none. Anytime that they're around, check them out, or any of their events. Make sure that you watch them on UFC Fight Pass. Stick around for the next segment where we'll be talking some UFC action. I'm Jordan Kurtz. Give me a follow at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. This is the MMA Plug on Mile High Sports. Let's spend the next few minutes talking this weekend's UFC Fight Night card. Now, this is going down north of the border in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. This Fight Night card is going to be headlined by a couple of flyweight matchups in both the male and the female ranks. In the main event, you have former champion Brandon Moreno taking on Amir Albazi. This is the return of both fighters in a sense, in that you had Brandon Moreno announcing that he was having a hiatus and stepping away from the fight game for a little while after his last fight when he took the loss to Brandon Raw Dog Royval down in Mexico. Then you had Amir Albazi, who was on the shelf for a while after having neck surgery. This is a fight where, obviously there could be some potential implications on the line. If Amir Albazi goes out there and does something impressive, then that might leapfrog him in the discussion as far as the title contention goes, because he is new blood. He hasn't fought Pantoja yet. Obviously, everybody's fresh blood for Kai Asakura if he should win that fight in December once they throw down in a couple of months. However, when we're looking at this, I don't see a route to victory for Amir Albazi. Outside of maybe just laying and praying and going the full snooze bore route for 25 full minutes, I don't see a way that he beats Brandon Moreno. I think that Brandon Moreno is just too much of a dog, and he's going to bring the fight to Amir Albazi, and this is going to be a night where I think that you see a good and an exuberant version of the assassin baby, Brandon Moreno. In the co-main event, you have a women's matchup between Rose Namajunas taking on Erin Blanchfield. Rose Namajunas, the GOAT at 115 pounds. She is on that quest trying to win gold in a second division at 125 pounds. Erin Blanchfield is the next name in the way on that path. Rose Namajunas was victorious just a few weeks back when she fought here on the Denver card in the headliner against Tracy Cortez. Erin Blanchfield is looking to turn things around and get her hand raised in this matchup. She, in her last fight, she just was outmatched by Manon Fior. Manon is a very high-level kickboxer that was just able to bring such a look to Erin Blanchfield that she looked outclassed. And I didn't think that was potentially going to be the case for the situation for Blanchfield. I thought that Blanchfield was just, that next coming for a title hopeful, but she kind of got exposed a little bit in that fight. And against somebody like Rose, who is as sharp of a striker as she is, and now that Rose has settled into herself at 125 pounds, that was a discussion that we had after the Tracy Cortez fight. Has she truly had the opportunity to let her body acclimate to carrying the extra weight now, to where the power translates with the movement? Because her footwork and the way that she flows in and out of exchanges it's beautiful. It's poetic. She puts the art in martial artist. And I think that this is another opportunity for her to go out there and to fight a very highly heralded prospect and go out there and take a little bit of that steam, if that's even possible at the stage that Rose is at. I mean, again, she's the greatest of all time in one division and is going out there chasing gold and glory in a second division. I think that this is a chance just to a little bit of the hype or whatever, if you will, for Erin Blanchfield. This is a good opportunity for Rose to go out there and to capitalize on her namesake. You have a heavyweight banger slated between Jonathan Dainez taking on the Black Beast, Derek Lewis. Guys, I don't care what the fight is. If Derek Lewis is in it, we here at the MMA Plug, we're cheering for Derek Lewis. Maybe depending on how all things sift out, maybe we get the big ends back in here And we have some old time celebrations the way that we did, with Ty to Derek to so on and so forth. We had some good times celebrating with these fan favorite fighters throughout the years, and we all know that no matter what, if Derek Lewis goes out there and scores a knockout victory, give that man a hot mic, because he is about to say something unhinged, and I'm here for it. You have a matchup also on the main card in the light heavyweight division between Caio Machado and Bredson Hibiero. Moving along, just because we're a little bit short on time here for the program, I'm going to talk about a couple of other fights on the card. We have Powerbar Marc-Andre Barrial taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. This is a good opportunity for Barrial to go out there and to put together a win and to potentially do so in exciting fashion. Stoltzfus is a guy who we've only seen a couple of flashes from, if we're being completely honest. Moving from there, you have a welterweight matchup between Trevin Giles and Mike Malott. I think this is a good opportunity for Mike Malott to go back out there and to get his confidence back and recapture some of that steam that he had. Although Trevin Giles is a very solid and savvy boxer, so have to be careful, can't leave himself too much in the pocket ready for that counter exchange or just for a big devastating blow from someone strong like Trevin Giles. Although I think it is fair to say Giles at welterweight, maybe not the same guy as middleweight, but I don't know. He's very mid at best there. You have a matchup in the bantamweight division between Amin Zahabi taking on Pedro Munoz. Couple of battle-tested veterans in this matchup. Amin Zahabi, he's not as active as maybe I guess some of the fans or some of us out there would love or expect for him to be. But this is a tried and true veteran who he can go out there and compete with the thick of it against any of the vets in the world. His brother being one of the top and most highly respected coaches out there, and him being involved in the staff and in the operations there at TriStar for years on years now. He's going to be well prepared as he goes in there to take on a stalwart of the bantamweight division who has been in the thick of things in the tops of the 135-pound contenders for as long as I can remember, and that's Pedro Munoz. It's a fight, again, the caliber and the experience that each of these two fighters have is something that could make for a very special matchup once they get into the octagon on Saturday. Following that, you have a matchup in the women's 125-pound division between the Queen of Violence, Ariane Lipski, taking on Jasmine Jasudavicius. Jasmine had a big victory here in Denver. She's going to look to go out there and put another victory together and, do so in exciting fashion in front of her home country up there in Canada. You have another matchup with a Canadian fan favorite who is making his first trip to the UFC octagon at 135 pounds in Charles Jourdain. He has taken on a very crafty and well-trained Victor Henry. Victor Henry is trained underneath the War Master Josh Barnett. We've seen him have some very quality and high-level performances in the octagon. We've also seen a couple of fights that didn't necessarily go his way. Charles Jourdain, on the flip side, is a guy who, whether it is win or loss, it's pure entertainment, and that's a guy who you want to watch fight. That is must-see TV. He's making that trip down to bantamweight, and hopefully for him, he gets his hand raised, and this is an opportunity for him to get some momentum back on his side. Because again, Charles Jourdain is pure entertainment as far as it goes when they're in there fighting. And we're just gonna round it off by talking a couple of other fights on the card here. Again, we're running a little bit tight on time here for the program, but a couple of them that we want to hit on the way out. You have a heavyweight matchup between Alexander Romanov taking on Rodrigo Nascimento. Anytime that you have a matchup with Alexander, it's either going to be a finish in the first round or you're going to see him get really tired and you're basically going to see 15 minutes of titty bumping. Another matchup on the card, you have former LFA royalty and Jamie Lynn Hoth, the Canadian, taking on Ivana Petrovic. And then you also have Ultimate Fighter Cody Gibson along with Chad Ellinger. You have Garrett Armfield taking on Surly Sidey. And, of course, you have our friend of the program, guest on the show this week, Youssef, the Moroccan Devil Zalal out of Factory X, taking on Jack Shore. Jack Shore coming into the contest at 17-2. Youssef, the Moroccan Devil Zalal, 15-5-1. Youssef has re-entered the UFC and is on a tear so far. He is on a he's won back-to-back fights. He's picked up finishes in each of those 2 fights, and he looks to go out there and put on a exciting performance and put a stamp on it with a highlight reel victory against Jack Shore this week. But make no mistake about it, Jack Shore is a very savvy and tough opponent that Youssef is going to have to bring his game in this fight. But if the Youssef that we all know and love shows up, Youssef is going to be able to beat any of the best attempts that Jack Shore is going to be able to bring his way. And Youssef, the Moroccan Devil Zalal, will continue to make his climbs up the ranks at 145 pounds. Again, close to the situation, friend of the program, all of that. But I do believe that just the skill set and the mindset that Youssef possesses is something that is special, and it's going to take him a very, very far way in this game. What do you guys think, though? Let us know on social media. You can reach out to Mile High Sports across all platforms, or reach out to me, Jordan Kurtz, at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. Stick around for more combat sports after this. I'm Jordan Kurtz. This is the MMA Plug on Mile High Sports. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the MMA Plug on Mile High Sports. I'm Jordan Kurtz. Give me a follow along online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. I am joined by a participant from this weekend's UFC Canada card. We have friend of the program making his return to the show, the Moroccan Devil, Youssef Zalal. How you doing, my friend?
I am good, my man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for being right here along with us, Youssef. Real quick, before we get too much into the thick of things, where can people follow you?
Mostly Instagram. That's what I use, at the Moroccan Devil. But yeah, give me a follow there. Give me a shout out there.
There you have it right there, folks. Make sure that you give Youssef a follow so you can keep up to date and on tabs for all of the fight week proceedings. And you could probably give Big Booty Judy Cody Brundage a follow too, Cody_Brundage_, because he's going to be in the mix with Youssef all week. You know, he's over here trying to be in the mix. You know, we all got to do things over here. But Youssef, as we take on this matchup, you're facing Jack Shore, a very highly touted prospect. What are your thoughts on the matchup? And you know, what was the first impression when you got the call?
It's like you said, it's a very notable name, you know what I mean? So for me, that was the only, to be honest, that came up in my mind is, oh wow, like beat a guy like that is gonna bring my name up there, you know what I mean? So that was my main focus, and it's still my main focus, and I don't want to just go out there and just win a fight. I want to really dominate and get a finish, to really make a statement, just for the past 3 fights, and then just for the next year, just to be ready for the top 15 and stuff like that. And I know to do that, I got to finish this kid, and I will finish this kid, and I'm very excited.
That being said, this is, you know, right back on the path and the trajectory where you were originally thinking that this was going to go. You know, you come back in on short notice, you fight Billy. Billy was a top 20 guy in the world at that point. But then the Jarno matchup comes along, and it was just, I mean, you wanted to fight. That's the name that was available. By rankings, or by caliber, if you will, that was a step back. But now you get a guy who's right back into the thick of being thought of as, hey, this kid's a somebody. Is that kind of what your aim is, just continuing to take these elevated matchups up the rankings?
100%. And not to be honest, like Jarno Ernest, I can't even say his last name, but Jarno, man, I think he was a tougher fight than Billy, in my opinion, right? I feel like he had a lot more power than Billy. Billy can go 3 rounds, and Jarno can just swing for whatever long as he can, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, it was definitely a setback. But again, it's like, if I want to be a world champion, I have to beat all the guys they put in front of me. So that was my mindset, and that's my mindset going into any fight. So like you said, Jack Shore is in the mix of top 40s in the division. So, and obviously he was ranked as a bantamweight. So it brings a lot of noise my way after finishing a kid like that. And then, yeah, that's what I'm excited about.
And then now that will also, within these 3 fights, that's 3 very different styles that you're having to prepare for too. You know, you mentioned Billy being the black belt, Billy being a guy who is a volume kid who can go the distance, whereas Jarno's a pretty, he's a power-based Dutch-style kickboxer. Then now you have Jack, who has a lot of wrestling to his base, or he's going to try to do a fair amount of grappling based off of what you present to him. What does that mean for you? Does that make it harder for you that you're having to prepare for all of these different styles, or do you feel like, you know, you're well-rounded as it is within your preparation, so it's just another day in the office?
What's most exciting about it is the puzzle for me. I have to solve a puzzle that not a lot of people got to solve. Only 2 people got to do it. You know what I mean? So for me to go in there and make this puzzle as easy as I can, and I will make it as easy as I can, right? So that's what's the most important for me. And I always look at it, man, as like, in the end of the day, they never fought somebody like me. And that's what all matters. You know what I mean? I feel like I've been ready for wrestlers. I've been ready for strikers. I've been ready for jiu-jitsu guys. So at the end of the day, it's like, they haven't fought somebody like me, and that's what they got to prepare for and they got to get ready for, and that's what makes the fighting exciting. You know, we got to solve 2 puzzles, and who can get to the puzzle first and who can make it easier, you know? So that's what I'm excited about, and I'm looking forward to that.
Speaking of that, you know, this last weekend we had a title fight in the featherweight division. We were watching that fight. There's a highlight reel montage for Ilia Topuria going into that fight. That's what I was just about to say. There's one person noticeably omitted from that highlight reel. You were on that highlight reel, you know, to this day. Aside from when he got touched by Jai, overall, in totality, I still believe that you're the toughest fight that Ilia's had.
Man, I'm just excited to redo that story and then to continue the journey and really just to put an ending to that book in the end. And my time will come. You know, I feel like a lot of people say, oh, like, I'm the toughest fight, blah, blah. Obviously, we were both growing and we were both young, obviously. I can't remember, that was like 4 or 5 years ago, but there's a lot of changes in his side and there's a lot of changes in my side. You know, he's doing an amazing things. He just beat 2 of the greatest featherweights in the division. I think the best to ever do it, to be honest. So, and to knock him out like that, both of them in the second round, the other one's the third round or second round. But it's like, it's crazy, man. So for me, that's like a motivator to me. That's what I look forward to, and that's my main goal. And I gotta do anything. I will do anything to get to that goal. So that's the eyes on the prize.
Obviously it makes your fight with Ilia look that much better, given that he continues to win and continues to shine. But on the flip side, I mean, Max Holloway, as you mentioned many times, that's always been one of your favorite fighters since the very beginning. Was it kind of bittersweet seeing that? And that, yes, it's good for you on a professional and on a business level that Ilia keeps winning, but Max being one of your, just at your core, you know, your fans' fan, that inner Youssef, take away the business, take away the politics of the fight game. You are a Max Holloway fan. Seeing him get flatlined like that, what was the feeling like? Did you feel the same emotional damage that the rest of us did?
Yes. The first thing that came up to me is this sport sucks most days and it's fun the other days, you know? So I love it. I love doing this sport. I love going out there and fighting, but you hate to see. I think it's like one of the guys I looked up to coming up in my career, to be honest. So, and to be honest, the whole story, me coming back to the UFC, my coach, Marco Montoya, was the number one thing he said is like, hey, Max Holloway went on a 10 winning streak after he lost like 3 in a row or 4 in a row. So that was kind of like the whole journey following through. So that was one of the journeys I was following. So, and I'm still following that journey, to be honest. So yeah, it's definitely heartbroken, man. And yeah, it teaches you a lesson quick in this sport, you know? You can be the highs and highs, and you can go really lows. So, but I know he'll be back, and obviously he's still the champ at 155, but I'm excited to see the comeback from him. He always comes back better, but I'm excited about that, and I can't wait.
Youssef, as we tighten things up here, is there a song lyric, a quote, maybe a movie scene, anything along those lines, a religious scripture, something to that effect that is telling the tale of Youssef the Moroccan Devil Zalal going into this fight?
What I have in my screen, and I always represent, it's Alhamdulillah, man. It's no matter what goes in, good or bad, you always say Alhamdulillah. So praises to all God, you know what I mean? So for me to see where my journey is at and to see where my journey is going, and it's still going, and you never know, you know. I'm just blessed to even go out there and fight another fight in my career, and I think it's like my 22nd or 21st professional fight. So that's why I say Alhamdulillah, man, and I'm very happy, and I'm very excited to not only have God behind me, and to go out there and really just do what I do what I love, you know what I mean, and be just have fun. That's what I'm excited about.
Gotta love that. A Youssef that's having fun is a very dangerous Youssef. And even more so, hey, selfishly, I hope Jack maybe says a little bit of something that challenges his ego, and we get to see a little bit of that red from the Moroccan Devil this week.
I love red.
Controlled red, but you give Youssef the right level of something, or you give Youssef something to where he can give you the Last Dance, Michael Jordan, and I took that personal. It's a totally different person.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for one day to kind of somebody like talk smack a little bit, but I don't think nobody ever talked smack yet. So I'm keeping it. We're staying good, man. Let's just go have fun. Let's go fight, throw hands down, and yeah, don't test me. We'll test me. You'll find out. But you keep poking somebody until they fight back. But we'll see.
And there we have it right there, folks. Youssef, is there anything else that you want to get out to friends, family, supporters, anybody that we haven't covered so far?
Nah, man. We said everything. Obviously, I appreciate you guys for the support, especially the true fans that have been with me since when I was down and up and all that stuff. So I appreciate you guys, and I can't wait to keep this train going and really keep ending this year in a high note and starting the 2025 in a higher note. So I'm very excited, and I can't wait.
Absolutely right there, folks. Make sure that you follow him at the Moroccan Devil. Catch him this weekend on that UFC Canada card. Always entertaining, always a pleasure chatting with you. Folks, make sure that you keep it locked for more from the MMA Plug on Mile High Sports. I'm Jordan Kurtz. Give me a follow along online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. All right, folks. Before we wrap up the show for the day, I want to talk to you about a quick passion project that is near and dear to us here at the MMA Plug and is also of a great benefit to the community as a whole. That is the Guardian Project. What is Guardian? Guardian aims to provide jiu-jitsu for all. This is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that's committed to providing free youth jiu-jitsu scholarships to underserved youth around the world. Guardian is dedicated to offering children year-round stability and consistency through our programs, focusing not just on their physical transformation, but also on fostering positive friendships, mentorship opportunities, and a secure environment during challenging times. By partnering with established and trustworthy academies, donors can trust that a minimum of 85% of their contributions directly fund the scholarships that they support. As of now, there are more than 390 underserved youth students that are currently fully sponsored within our 17 projects worldwide. You can visit FactoryXMuayThai.com to make your tax-deductible donation and help support a student within our community today. After this weekend, we got to take a look at how some of the action unfolded as it relates to the implications for the potential Fighter of the Year award. Now, I thought that there was no chance that there would be anybody who could possibly enter the discussion for the 2024 Fighter of the Year with Alex Poatan Pereira. However, following Saturday's performance against Max Holloway, Ilia Topuria has certainly made a case for himself and has entered the chat. Now, let's take a look at their respective resumes as we look at each of these two champions throughout this Kobe Bryant year. If we take a look at Alex Pereira, he has fought in 3 main events, that is 3 title defenses, 3 knockouts. Those have came against Jamal Hill, Yuri Prohaska, both 2 former champions, and then rising contender in Khalil Roundtree Jr. And that version that fought Khalil Roundtree, well, that was a severely compromised version of Pereira, who had visa issues, who was sick, was on antibiotics, was running a crazy fever, hacking up a lung in the process, still went out there and got the TKO in the championship rounds. If we look at the body of work for the counterpart of this discussion, Ilia Topuria, in 2024, Ilia Topuria is 2-0. That is 2 title fights, one of them as the challenger against Alexander Volkanovski, the other one as the champion defending his belt for the first time against Max Holloway. Both of those fights resulted in devastating knockouts. Also, that being said, those 2 names are 2 of the 3 greatest to ever compete at 145 pounds. Anybody's GOAT list at 145 is going to include the 3 names of Max Blessed Holloway, Alexander the Great Volkanovski, and Jose Aldo Jr. Now, in this situation, obviously, Ilia won't be fighting Aldo given that he's down at 35. However, when you've crossed off 2 of the GOATs of the division in the devastating fashion in which he did, Max Holloway never finished before, never truly been hurt like that in a fight. Yeah, there was the knockdown where he bounced right back up against Justin Gaethje, but he's never been hurt the way that we saw him initially against Ilia when he got cracked the first time. Just could not recover, and oh my lord, the power that man has, and the way that he is just able to separate people from consciousness and send them to the place where time doesn't exist. It is insane. Right now, you don't want to be the guy that is fighting Ilia Topuria. He is him. At the moment, the guy's in his bag, if you will, as the kids say. But if we're taking a look at him in contrast to Poatan, we can't get too crazy with the recency bias here, which is easy to do, especially after that type of spectacular performance. However, if we're looking at the all-encompassing effect of what they've done this year, I think that the advantage has to still be highly in favor of Alex Pereira. And I say that simply from the standpoint of whenever Pereira goes anywhere, the droves of people that follow him, the Chama chants, he does not even speak English. And he is right now the biggest superstar on the UFC roster that is actively competing. Who knows what the situation with Conor is? That's the caveat to biggest superstar on the roster. Also given his, hints at retirement tweets, but I digress. Pereira is the biggest superstar that is active right now. And the way that he has carried the promotion on his back by taking 2 of those 3 title fights on short notice. Remember, he headlined UFC 300 a month earlier than when he was originally planning to fight at UFC 301 back in his home country of Brazil a few weeks later. Then you have everything go to pieces with Conor at the end of June for International Fight Week. 14 days notice, basically. He hops back in there with Yuri. That's a rematch, and goes out there and knocks Yuri out. The impact that he has had all the way around and transcending the mainstream, at least as far as I could say here stateside. I can't speak for what the impact with Ilia over in Europe or over there in Spain. I mean, obviously, he's a superstar in other parts of the world, but his impact that we can speak to stateside, it's definitely highly in favor of Pereira. What do you guys think? Let us know on that Mile High Sports tweet line or X line, whatever you call it now at this stage. Hit me up, Jordan Kurtz, on Instagram or on Threads. That's comments from the Peanut Gallery. Let me know what you guys think as far as who has put forth the better resume for Male Fighter of the Year in 2024 between Alex Poatan Pereira, the 205 light heavyweight champion, or Ilia El Matador Topuria, the featherweight champion. Let me know. Hit us up in the comments. Let's take a couple minutes right now, though, to talk about the squeeze of Khamzat Chimaev. Now, we've seen some tears that have hit the ranks throughout history in mixed martial arts, but we have, I don't want to say never seen somebody like a Khamzat, but Khamzat is certainly something special. It is just so unfortunate that he is inactive at the level that he is, or has ran into the injuries, the health circumstances, so on and so forth. Because what he went out there and was able to do against Robert Whittaker and literally broke his face with the squeeze was absolutely insane. The way that he shot for that takedown, I mean, it goes against all conventional logic to shoot that far out, but he's just so relentless, so powerful and explosive, and will chase that takedown at all costs. And it worked the other day. And then eventually he was able to get to the backpacked, and then didn't even have the choke completely locked in, and then completely took Robert Whittaker's teeth all the way inside of his mouth. It wasn't a jaw dislocation as I was made to understand it. It was a break within the mandible that pushed the teeth back. I'm probably butchering this description. Some of you out there with a superior medical background could probably chime in on the comments and let the audience know exactly what the prognosis was there. But if you saw the pictures, if you saw the images of what that looked like, it was gruesome. It was one of those "so you want to be a fighter, huh?" type of images. That also makes me think of the fight that he had against Kevin Holland, in the squeeze that he had in the choke with Kevin Holland, in the small amount of time that it was there before the submission was secured and the fight was finished. Kevin Holland's eyes were made to be completely bloodshot. They were filled with blood in the process. That begs the question, just how tight is the squeeze of Khamzat Chimaev? That type of performance the other day against Robert Whittaker, that's the type of performance that makes you leapfrog the line. I know that Sean Strickland is waiting that title shot out and is hoping to be the guy that's next in line. He's came out on social media and has voiced his concerns, or voiced his thoughts on the process, that he is still the one that's next in line. And as much as I think that Sean should get a rematch, especially because we've talked about it on the program before, don't think that he lost that fight to Dricus, even though it was a really tight fight, could have gone either way. But I do believe that he should get a rematch. That all being said, Khamzat is a global superstar. When I met Khamzat a couple of years ago, he had all of the works of what Pereira now has. He had the masses of the crowds following him. This was before he had the heel turn with the weight miss when he was booked against Nate Diaz. This was when he was still buddy-buddy with Darren Till. This was going into the Burns fight, which delivered to be one of the greatest fights of that entire year in 2022. But Khamzat has all of the makings of being a champion as well as a bona fide superstar in the UFC. The biggest concerns with Khamzat are just keeping him healthy so that he can be active on a regular enough schedule. The big issue with Khamzat, as well as other guys from this card like Shara Bullet, who has the sort of exciting style that you could market, they have visa issues. There's issues with them being able to get into the country to be able to work, not necessarily on the tourist side of things, but on the actual work visa end of things. There's issues that some of these guys are going to have, along with then, okay, well, Shara's also got the commission issue with the eye. That's why he's got to fight over on that side of the world. Khamzat has to fight over there because of some of his visa issues. There's only a select amount of cards that are over there in Riyadh, that are over there in Abu Dhabi, that are in these commissions that will allow for them to be able to have work visas to be able to participate. So that's some of the issue that you run into with a guy like Khamzat, despite all of the makings of him being a potential cash cow. I mean, there was essences of his "I kill them all" that came out in the fight, especially right afterwards when he initially kind of reflected himself, looked around, and then he starts kind of screaming and saying, "Dana." This was, though, dare I say, one of the more introspective and humble versions of Khamzat Chimaev that we've seen. If you listen to the post-fight press conference, he talked about how he's trying to be a better example now because he's a father. Sometimes that has that sort of effect on someone where it just tempers down that wild side and it makes him kind of lock in a little bit more. I don't know if there were complications with his weight cut, but he was the last one to the scale, and there were a lot of people online that pointed out last week during media day that he looked a little bit thick and they were anticipating a potential miss. Obviously, where there was smoke, there was fire as far as the image of him being a little bit thick, because if it were easier, especially in his home in his native country, you would imagine that he would be on the scale a lot earlier than being the very last one out. But again, Khamzat is one of those guys that the UFC is praying can keep it together for long enough for them to be able to put matchups together for him in a concise enough fashion so that he can get that title shot. It's hard to give a guy like Khamzat a title shot when he fights once a year at best. You have to have a little bit more activity so that you can have some momentum in the process so that they can help sell you to the masses. Him having the profile that he does will obviously help bridge that gap, but activity certainly trumps that, and Alex Pereira is proof of that. Diego Lopez going out there and fighting on such a frequent basis is proof of that. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I'm Jordan Kurtz with the MMA Plug on Mile High Sports. Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship made their return to the Mile High City over the weekend, and there was such a feel-good story to put a bow on the whole thing that, I am completely just thrilled to present the news that Chris Camozzi, friend of the program, longtime friend, he is now a world champion. He won the vacant championship the other night in spectacular fashion, a highlight reel knockout that, it's going to be played over and over, and that is something that will be a highlight that he will look back on for the rest of his days as that belt sits upon his mantelpiece. And, it couldn't happen to a better guy who has been in the trenches through and through, been through it to get to it years and years. 20 plus fights in the UFC, fought in glory, fought overseas for, ACB or some of the major Russian promotions, so on and so forth. Then entered into the bare knuckle world and has climbed the ranks, fought for a title once, and then was able to battle his way back, fights now again for this title, now gets his hand raised in triumphant victory, and you have to love that for the hometown kid. He's somebody who has been a part of the Denver scene for for a decade plus now as far as the fight scene goes, and for him to go out there and get a victory and win that world title in front of his home crowd, I'm sure that is just a spectacular feeling that is sort of speechless, if you will. And we're going to hope to try to get Chris onto the program directly to speak to him and to get some of his reflections and after action thoughts. But that's one of those stories that for someone who has been such an integral part of this fight community here in the Mile High, for him to go out there and get his hand raised with a world title in a major promotion that is recognized on a global scale, congratulations to you, Chris, and all of your team for going out there and accomplishing this goal at such a high level. There were a multitude of other fighters from the area who also were on the card. You had guys who were victorious like Marcus Edwards, Bare Knuckle is built for a guy who is just so fast twitch and explosive and throws with bad intentions, as his nickname suggests, like your Marcus Edwards. You had Dylan Schulte picking up a victory out there, another DCO MMA product, and making a long-awaited return after battling through some adversity. Congratulations to Kat Pepperaki going out there and getting her hand raised. I know that was a huge victory and a huge hurdle to overcome. It's been a long road back to competition, and another salt of the earth type of person, just a great woman. So congratulations to you, Kat, for going out there and getting that victory there at the BKFC event over the weekend. How many of you were out there in attendance? I personally was not there because I was covering the LFA show. We're covering more of that LFA show on this program, but again, you could always reach out to us and let us know what your thoughts are as far as the card or anybody that you might want to hear more about from the event itself. Let us know on those Mile High Sports channels. Smash that like, share, and subscribe button, or reach out to me directly, Jordan Kurtz, at Comments from the Peanut Gallery on Instagram or on Threads. Just like that, we are all out of time. I want to thank you all so much for joining us each and every week for the original combat sports programming that we bring your way here on the Mile High Sports airwaves. Guys, we have so much talent here on the Front Range and in the Denver area. There's a few events that are going to be going down to close out the year. If you can, please make sure that you go out there and you show your support. That means so much to all of us who are in the live event space. It means a tremendous amount to the athletes that are competing on those cards. To have you out there screaming, filling the crowds, showing your support. Without you, the fans, we don't have the opportunity to be able to go out there and do what we do. So please continue to show that love and support. We have such a rich community here as far as the love and support goes across all combat sports here in the Denver area and in Colorado, whether that be boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, all things across the board. We have, again, such a supportive and a loving combat sports community. So if you have the chance, please continue to show up and show out like you always have for these events that close out the year. Again, though, we want to thank you for all of your love and support here for us at the MMA Plug on Mile High Sports. Each and every week, we are going to continue to bring you this live original programming at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm Jordan Kurtz. Give me a follow along online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. This is the MMA Plug on Mile High Sports, and we will see you next week, same time, same place.